Liz, can you tell me what this sentence means to you?
As a high school math teacher, we constantly get that I'm not good at math, my parents were good at math. And so we spent a lot of time that first week of school talking about how their math skills are built, that you have to earn them, that you have to work for them, and those mistakes that they make along the way are critical in helping them build those skills and if they learn from those mistakes. So that growth mindset has really started to infuse all of our secondary math classrooms these last few years, and just really focusing the kids on how can they build those skills. Jacob, what does it mean to have a growth mindset in a math classroom?
A lot of questions asked, and then a lot of people think deep thinking.
Everything's a lot more positive, and I liked learning more about the material instead of worrying about memorizing it.
It starts with paying attention in class and putting effort into the homework, which would carry onto the tests.
Positivity, participation, motivation, improving from quizzes to tests, working together, and helping each other out.
How has building a growth mindset within your classroom impacted your teaching?
As I think back over the last 12 years of teaching, the focus obviously has been on the math content standards and, where exactly are we teaching them in algebra and geometry and algebra 2. And as we think about getting our kids ready for college or career, we really have shifted to thinking about those universal constructs as well as the math practice standards. So as you look at this document, critical thinking, complex communication, creativity, collaboration, flexibility and adaptability, productivity, and accountability. And so what we've done is there are also 8 math practice standards, and they just flow really nice within the universal constructs. So as a goal of our district to get these kids college and career ready, I think it's extremely important that we're constantly referring back to the 8 math practice standards. And I even have them posted in my classroom. We're constantly looking at them, talking about how, for example, within complex communication, how can we construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others? There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not asking a kid to explain how they got it, or asking them to listen to another student and understand what they have, and justifying their answers, not just explaining, but going to that deeper level of understanding.
Liz, will you explain the importance of math practice number 1 in your classroom?
Okay, so looking at the math practices, that is probably the most important one. As we look at it, it says I can solve problems without giving up. And so developing, again, that growth mindset, that level of perseverance, encouraging our students that it is okay to fail, but you can't give up. And you're going to make your most learning when you can persevere through that. Whether they're at a kindergarten level or a high school level, that's really should be our main focus, is building that level of grit.
Once you have your reporting standards set, how do you know when each student has acquired those skills?
This goes into the whole assessment piece. How are we going to assess these students and look at where they're at? We have all those reporting standards. We worked really hard, actually 6-12, on developing those this year and trying to see what they look like, but how do you know if a kid's there? So we really spent a lot of time looking at standards-based grading and how that looks within the 9-12 math department. And what we've done is we've come up with common assessments throughout all of the high school math courses, and then common grading with those. So as we grade them, it's based on a proficiency scale and what level the student is at. So they might be at a 7 today, but tomorrow they're at an 8. And the next time when we take our final assessment, they're now at a strong or an advanced level of a 9 or 10. How does your math teacher know when you have acquired a new math skill?
When you can solve a problem quickly, efficiently, and it's done right.
Isaac?
When we get a problem and know how to do it.
Right away. Awesome. Desi? When you can do it completely and help others with it. The cool thing that I found with all this is it doesn't matter if I'm grading it or if Miss Leisinger's grading it or Miss Peterson's grading it. And what we've been able to do is I can look at one of their assessments and we come up with the same score, because it's not based on how many right or wrong, it's where those kids are at and whether or not they've acquired that skill. The other cool thing is looking at acquiring the math practice standards. What I look for in complex communication is very different at a freshman level versus my calculus students out at the RAM Center. But constantly bringing those to light and challenging those students to get to that next level of where are you at with with your understanding and your development of this skill.
All right, what do you like the most about standards-based grading in your math class?
I like how easy it is to read because it shows how much we've improved over the school year.
I like you have multiple chances to show you've learned a standard.
I would also like to tell you a little bit about our philosophy of doing whatever it takes here at the high school. Within that, we have really upped our ante with our intervention for the kids that aren't understanding, the kids that don't have that grit, that perseverance, that do give up. And they're not trying hard on their Iowa assessments, they're not performing well on their MAP scores. So what we've done is we've taken those pieces of data, looked at them, compiled them, and pulled apart. Actually, I think for this next fall we have 40 students at the high school, grades 9 through 11, that will every other day be in an 8th-hour class called Accelerate Math Lab. And some of the things that we work on there are continuing those math practice standards and then building in the content standards and skills that they're missing so that they can be successful in their class, as well as getting the extra support for their math homework that they maybe aren't receiving at home. And the thing that I'm super excited about with that is it has actually evolved over the last 3 years, and we saw huge success this year with increase in Iowa assessment scores as well as MAP scores, like 20% jump.
Okay, what are some different things that you have done in Math Lab this year to help you learn?
You get like extra period to work on your math homework and get help.
We've done some Khan Academy activities and some Kahoots.
Okay, and then how has being in Math Lab helped you this year?
It's kept my grade up in math.
It's brought up my test scores and math.
And lastly, what are some professional goals that you've set for yourself to continue this work?
We've really focused on the first 3 of DeFor's. I just want to go back through those. That's, what do we want our students to learn? How do we know when they've learned those? What do we do if they can't learn? But that last one of, how will we extend the learning for students who are already proficient? That is going to be where we're going to focus next year, I think, especially at the 9-12 level, to get more of our kids to that advanced proficiency. And the only way we do that is by pre-assessing them, seeing where they're at, and then providing them with those enriching and challenging activities that can get them to that next level. And so I think we will work on making common pre-assessments within all of the math classes and using those to help us make more informed decisions about how to differentiate for those upper level